The Truth with John Gordon.
I woke up on top of the world this morning.
We break down today's political landscape and feature interviews with key guests.
It doesn't matter if they call you a or a
to uncover the real story behind current events in the United States.
Of course, saw a rifle pointing through a fence with a chain link. Okay, so
you're a good man. I just want to give you a compliment because you have courage to stay with the truth.
I hate injustice.
This is great fun. I like you and your ideas, so let's do some more of this.
As our listeners know, I have been a follower and aficionado of Tesla for some time, and our channel skews and our listeners skew mostly to the right. Climate change is not something that you care to talk about, let alone engage in. I've made the point that for me, Tesla is not about climate change. It's about leaving the world in a better place from which we found it. And frankly, it's just a better mousetrap. So I've gone out and found one of the preeminent YouTubers who follows Tesla every day of his life, like I do. His name is Brian White, and he has a channel called Futureaza. Brian, welcome to The Truth.
Great to be here. I'm very excited about this. And you're right. It's not about the green mission. When Ford was building what became the Mustang Mach-E, their original thing was, we're going to push this as a green car. And then they got behind the wheel and said, this is really fun. That's what we're going to push. And that's what people resonated with.
Well, I bought a Model X a little over 2 years ago. It's 2.5 years old now. I drove it this morning to an appointment in Delray, Florida, which is exactly 18 miles from here. Voice commanded, navigate to my destination, pulled out of my garage, hit the button, and away we went. I didn't touch it. It absolutely delivered me to the entrance of the parking lot. It's amazing.
And it is amazing. The other day I drove 12 hours from just north of Portland all the way to Santa Rosa, California. And 12 hours driving a normal car would leave you exhausted. You'd need a day to rest, but I use the full self-driving. I have version 12, the latest version of the 12s, and it does great. It makes the drive pleasant. It gives you an opportunity to relax a little bit on the drive. You have to watch, you have to pay attention for safety reasons, of course, but it is like, it has changed my life.
So you and I know exactly what we're talking about. For our listeners, we're talking about Tesla's autonomous driving. They call it full self-driving, and it's been released to the general public for, I guess, a little over a year now, I think.
Well, it depends
Maybe
on
longer.
which version. Yeah. I guess, yeah, supervised FSD is about a year old now, but yeah, it's pretty exciting.
Yeah. And so it was pretty clunky when I first got it, and it was a little uncomfortable surrendering control to this computer. And there were a lot of opportunities that I needed to make an intervention. Either the car got confused. I mean, it was horrible at roundabouts. It was not good at changing lanes if there was a lot of traffic, on and on and on. But today, I just got notified, Brian, that I have version 13 waiting, and I just need to go out there and connect to the internet and download it, which is amazing to me too. For our listeners, again, this automobile receives over-the-air updates on about a monthly basis, where the software is actually updated over the airwaves. You don't have to take it in for an appointment, no service. Do you know that in 2.5 years, I have had one service call? And the service call I had was because the steering wheel, the leather had delaminated, and it was really ratty, and the car cost a lot of money. And so I was pissed, but I just surrendered and said, well, there's nothing I can do about it. And then one day I was bored, so I called the service line up at Tesla. And before I could even finish explaining the problem, he said, oh, that's a known issue. Make an appointment, bring it in, we'll repair it, we'll replace it for free. And by the way, with the new steering wheel, you get a horn actually in the middle of the steering column, which was one of my other pet peeves. You had to hit a button to hit the horn. And when you need the horn, you can't be looking for the dang button. So now you have a traditional horn. Here's the kicker. I was sitting at home working, and the phone rang. And this guy on the other line said, hey, this is Sam. I'm with Tesla. And I know you've got an appointment to bring your car in next week. I happen to have a free hour this morning. I'd like to drop by your house with your permission and replace it in your driveway. I said, come on, Sam. He said, well, I'll be there between 9 and 10. He called me at 10 minutes of 9 and said, hey, I'm in the driveway. 30 minutes later, the steering wheel was replaced. I had the horn, no charge. That is service.
It's fantastic. Not every service center is as good as every other one, but they are. My experience has also been very good. I haven't had much in terms of issues, but when I have even questions, they will gladly answer them. And when I was in there one day talking with the guys, a man came in and said, yeah, I broke the little clip on my visor and it's out of warranty. And they said, well, we can replace it for you. It's going to be, like $60, or if you want, I can sell you the clip right now for $3. The guy said, I'll take it. $3.
I'll take door number 2 for $3.
Yeah. So they're quite, when the motivation is we want to sell more cars, rather than a lot of the dealerships for sure, their motivation is we just want to squeeze every penny out of you. The service experience can be different.
I've had absolutely no service. Not one call except for the steering wheel. And they exceeded my expectations wildly. So we are speaking at a time that the stock TSLA just hit a record high.
Very
You
exciting.
didn't know that.
I did not. I hadn't checked the price today. It must have happened today.
It happened within the last hour, and it reached, let me tell you real quick, $409 has been the high for the day. It's currently at 408. We're recording this prior to our Saturday broadcast. But nevertheless, that puts the market value of Tesla well over $1 trillion.
Yeah. It's got to be close to 1.3-ish. This is something, we've been in a few years of loading the spring, as it were. If you were to go back to the previous all-time high a few years back and say, by the way, I am from the future, I can tell you that over the next 2, 3, 4 years, the company will hit all their targets. They will release the products they said they were going to. They will increase deliveries as expected. Oh, and also, what are you going to do? You'd say, well, I'm going to invest. Well, you'd have been down for a long time because the stock moved sideways. But there's only so long the stock can stay down before the fundamentals catch up. Is the company executing? The answer is yes. It's been yes all along. It is still going full steam. So at some point, it has to break out again. You were an early investor. You saw years of it trading sideways before it finally blew out at the end of 2019. And, you saw something in the company that others didn't. I saw it as well. That's why we invested early, and we didn't sell because we saw something and we knew it was there. And a lot of the concerns that we had back in 2019 have gone away. Things like long-term debts that were going to become convertible. If the stock price wasn't high enough, well, it was high enough. Those debts are now gone and the company's in great shape.
Well, as I shared with you, I bought Tesla in 2018, maybe 2017, somewhere in there, for one purpose and one purpose only. And that is, I was obsessed with the concept of a full self-driving automobile, autonomy, and the implications that it has for humanity and the way that we live and the opportunities to solve global crises, including reducing the number of deaths on the highways every year. I think there are 2 million fatal accidents worldwide per year. There are 43,000 in the United States. If we can reduce that number by half, it's worth it. But one of the uniquenesses of this technology is that for some reason, people have this notion that it has to be perfect or else it's not acceptable. So we can't eliminate just 20,000 deaths and be content. We have to eliminate 43,000 before it's going to be accepted in the broad stream. I think I'm probably exaggerating a bit, but the regulators' mindset seems to be you can't have any flaws. Is that your perception?
I wouldn't say it's the regulators' perception. The regulators are happy with the math. With is it safer? Yes, then go ahead. A good example I heard is the one way that Tesla has been able to circumvent a lot of the regulators' concerns is by implementing it one chip at a time and saying, "Well, we have these cameras. Is it okay to use them?" Yes. It sees a stop sign. Is it okay if we hit the brakes if the driver's not hitting the brakes? Well, yes, you can do that. Well, we have lane keep. Is that okay to have lane? Well, yes, you can do. And pretty soon you're halfway there, and then you get to have the conversation of, look, we have the data, we have gathered it, we can show you that it is safer than a regular driver without it. Can we keep pushing forward? And so far, the answer's been yes.
So where
Then
are we today, do you think, in the
yes.
evolution?
So where we're at, I'm very excited to see if you actually got version 13 or if it's just a holiday update. But version 13 is going out, and version 13 has added it has closed a lot of the gaps. So with version 13, you can be that story you told where you went to the dentist. Next time, if it is version 13, you can turn it on before you leave the driveway. And when you get to your doctor's office, it will pull into a parking spot for you, and you have done nothing. That is the next step. That is where we are today. Tesla on October 10th had a big event in California where they showed off the Cybercab. And the Cybercab was running version 13. It is end to end. It does the whole thing. And it's photons into the cameras and controls out to the car. And in that car, there is no steering wheel because you don't need it. And this is going to change everything because the approach that other manufacturers are taking is, let's take an all-purpose car that can do everything and then add $50,000, $100,000 in additional equipment to make it do the one thing we actually want it to do. So you end up with a car that's going to cost $150,000 versus Tesla's plan is to make a Cybercab that can only do one thing: drive you around in comfort, easily, simply, and they're going to do it for $25,000. You're coming out of the gate with $100,000 advantage per unit on a car that's very simple to build. And this is going to really take Teslas to the next level because it will cost them less than $25,000 to build it. And the early models, I'm just going to tell you now, are going to cost 50. So they're going to have a 50% markup, meaning for every Cybercab Tesla sells, they'll have enough money to keep a Cybercab for their own fleet. And that becomes a cash bomb.
So would you be a Cybercab owner and put that car in out as a rental?
I think I would. I'm in a pretty small town and there's not a lot of good coverage. I don't think Uber even exists in my town. I know it has in the past, but one time I looked to see if I could get a ride to the airport and Uber said, there's nobody here. So wouldn't it be great to just have one sitting outside? Sometimes disappears and comes back with some money. It's like having a bird dog.
I like it. So tell our listeners the whole Tesla story in just a few words. It's far beyond just an automobile, right? Can you enumerate all the things that they're working on?
So Tesla takes a first principles approach. For anyone in engineering, they know what that means. Most people don't. The idea is, don't start with what's being done today. Ask what the outcome desired is and start from scratch. That's why the Cybertruck looks so weird, is they said, if a truck didn't exist today, what would we do to build it? And that meant that they came up with a very different design philosophy that's cheaper to build, easier to build, quicker to build, and gives you the same or better results. And everything Tesla does is like that. The Tesla philosophy is start with the answer and figure out how to get it rather than grabbing a bunch of pieces and saying, does this solve anything? So when you look at the Cybercab, on the surface, you could say, well, it looks like any other car out there. Well, a normal car, like the original Model 3 had, the body itself was 380 pieces. That's a lot of pieces to have to put together. That's a long assembly line. When they got to the Model Y, they said, let's do a structural battery pack. That body got down to 180 pieces. That is savings, that is time savings, that is cost, that is labor, that is fewer robots in the assembly process. And then now that they're on the Cybercab, I had a chance to talk with 5 of the lead engineers just last week. The Cybercab only has 80 pieces. So if you're driving a Buick or a Cadillac or a Mercedes, you've got hundreds of pieces that goes into the body, but this Cybercab has got 80 pieces. Think of how short that assembly line is. Think of how much cheaper it's going to be to build. Think of how much simpler it will be to repair. They've reinvented every part of it, from the wiring to the drivetrain system to the batteries. They've done it all. And the fact that they're the only EV car company that's actually profitable speaks volumes.